Hello again. This blog is called To Die is Gain. Today I spoke to a 14-year-old girl who told me that she was willing to die for being a Christian. Shorty has one sister. She is 16 and her name is Smiley. Together with their mom, they live in a grass hut that's about a 10-minute ride from the redemption center that I'm staying. I went for a ride one day exploring, and Shorty saw me while she was walking home from school. She ran home and told her mother, who is a pastor of a church that meets in their grass hut. Shorty is a brilliant girl, and she's able to speak pretty good English. So her mom asked her to track me down and ask me to come to their church/home. As I walked up to their house with her, there was a man who was there, and he was waiting for me. A man said that he received a vision that I would come and be there that same day, and so he was like here waiting. Talk about crazy. Over the next 2 weeks, I preached in their 10-foot by 10-foot home/church. Every Sunday, they have about 50 people who pack inside of this small building, and just they're outside the door. They're standing in this dirt road, and it was definitely an experience. I don't know if I wrote this, but I was preaching for about 45 minutes, and I finished up, and they were just like, "Well, you have to keep going." Like, that wasn't very long at all. And so I just freestyled for another like 45 minutes and just made something up about prayer and, used the Bible, of course. But it's just amazing how they were just so hungry for teaching. They also began to tell me the story of how they had gotten there. They lived in a very nice house in the city of Gunther that I was on the outskirts of, that we were on the outskirts of. But when their mother, they call her Sister Shanti, became a Christian, her Hindu husband began to beat her until she would bleed. And eventually they just ran away, and they're hiding far on the outskirts of town. They've only been there for about 2 months, and the husband has been trying to track them down. He has hired what Shorty calls brutes, which I guess are like gang members. And they've tried to follow Shorty home from school a couple times, and she's had to hide from them. And they heard that these brutes were hired by their dad to try to track them down and kill them and the members of the church. And so as they're telling me this story, all of a sudden these words come out of this little 14-year-old girl's innocent mouth. And she just says, "Even now, if these brutes found me in this home, I'm ready to die and be killed for my love with Jesus." And then Smiley and Sister Shanti then repeated the very same thing. They just said, "We are willing to be killed for Jesus also."
He was hunting us. He was searching for us, and he wanted to kill the members who are coming to church here. My father don't know that we are here at this time. Yes. He used to beat my mother. If any robbers or rowdies came upon us, we are ready to be killed on the name of Christ.
I am also ready to be killed for God's name. I want to stand only in the Christ.
I've never seen courage like this before in person. I've heard stories of people who were on the edge of death and chose their commitment with Christ over their own life, but had never met or talked to anyone, let alone a young girl. This girl put my courage to shame. It was one of the most seriously powerful experiences of my life, just sitting there talking and looking this girl in the face as she said this. There's this book that I'm reading. It's called Jesus Freaks, and they're just stories of martyrs, and it's written by DC Talk. It's put out by the organization Voice of the Martyrs, and there's a quote in that book that I found really interesting. It says, "Many have never contemplated whether they would be willing to die for Christ, because they have yet to truly begin living for him." And then there's 2 Bible verses, Philippians 1:20 and 20 through 22. It says, "Christ will be exalted in my body, whether by life or by death. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain." And then James 1, verses 1 through 3 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance." And I also just wanted to show you this picture. It's 4 girls who randomly showed up when I was at this church after service in the afternoon, and they had walked a while to try to get there for the morning service, and they missed it because they heard that I was there and wanted to try to catch me so that they could hear the gospel. And so I ended up just kind of walking them through Romans a little bit, and they ended up humbling themselves and asked King Jesus to be their savior just right there. And it was definitely just a great, I guess, ending to that day. Man, it was just really powerful. So thank you very much. Stay tuned.